The first time she said my name, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. You already know me, she said calmly, standing in the middle of Doc 9's arrival corridor, as if we'd planned to meet there. You just don't remember yet. I told her she was mistaken. Politely at first. Then firmly. I had just come out of cryo, standard long-haul transit from the outer survey rings back to Helios Station. Cryosleep always left me foggy, but not that foggy. I knew my name, my service record, my childhood home on Ceres Minor, the accident that had taken my brother, the reason I took contracts that kept me moving, never staying anywhere long. There was no space in my memory for her. She didn't argue. That was the unsettling part. She just watched me with an expression I couldn't place, something between relief and grief, like someone who had found a lost object only to discover it was broken. I'll give you time, she said. You always need time. That word always scraped at something in my head. Station security intervened before I could ask anything else. She didn't resist when they escorted her away, didn't shout or plead. As she passed me, she leaned close and whispered, "You promised you wouldn't forget this time." Then she was gone. I should have dismissed it as post-cryo hallucination. That happens sometimes. Familiar faces, invented conversations, the brain misfiring as it stitched consciousness back together. But hallucinations didn't leave data trails. Back in my assigned quarters, I ran a routine memory integrity check, standard for anyone coming out of long-term cryo. No corruption. No gaps. No unauthorized edits. Everything clean. Too clean. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I was circling something just out of reach, a thought that slid away the moment I focused on it. The next morning, I received a message on my private channel. No sender ID. No station routing. Just a location and a time. I didn't go. That was my first mistake. The dream started that night. Not dreams, really fragments. Sensations without context. Standing in a room that felt familiar, but looked wrong every time I tried to focus on it. The sound of my own voice, saying words I didn't remember choosing. The feeling of someone standing beside me, close enough that I could feel warmth, but never turning to look. On the third night, I woke up knowing one thing with absolute certainty. I had forgotten something on purpose. I went to the location from the message. It was an observation deck rarely used anymore, its view partially obscured by newer station structures. She was there, leaning against the viewport, watching the slow drift of ships beyond the glass. "You came later than usual," she said, without turning around. "Who are you?" I asked. She faced me then. Up close, she looked ordinary. Human, at least on the surface. No visible implants. No station tattoos. No insignia. Her eyes, though, they held a depth that made me feel like I was being seen from multiple angles at once. "My name is Mara," she said, "and I was your partner." "In what?" I demanded. "Because I don't." "In remembering," she finished softly. She told me a story that night. I listened, arms crossed, every instinct screaming that this was manipulation. According to Mara, I wasn't just a surveyor or contract specialist. I was part of a classified research initiative called Project Palimpsest, an effort to study memory as a physical dimension, something that could be navigated, altered, even exited. Humanity had discovered it accidentally, she said, while experimenting with nonlinear data storage. They found that memory wasn't just stored in the brain, it interacted with space-time in subtle ways. Strong memories left imprints. Shared memories created overlaps. Some minds could move through those overlaps. Mine was one of them. You could enter mnemonic spaces, she said. Places formed from remembered experience. Not simulations. Real structures built from perception and meaning. That's impossible, I said automatically. You used to say that too, she replied. Right before you proved it wrong. Mara had been my anchor, someone who stayed outside while I went in, monitoring, guiding, pulling me back when the boundaries blurred. Together, we mapped shared memory zones, recovered lost data from dead minds, even stabilized trauma loops that would have driven others insane. It sounded like science fiction layered on top of neuroscience. I wanted to laugh again, but then she showed me the proof. She placed a small device on the table between us. When she activated it, the air shimmered, and suddenly, I was standing in a different room. Not physically, perceptually. The observation deck faded, replaced by a narrow corridor lit by amber lights. I knew this place. Not vaguely. Intimately. I knew the texture of the walls, the hum of hidden machinery, the way the floor dipped slightly near the far door. My heart raced. This is a shared mnemonic construct, Mara said, her voice echoing strangely. Built from your memories and mine. I staggered, gripping the wall. I don't remember this, I whispered. You don't remember me, she corrected. There's a difference. She ended the projection, and the station snapped back into place. I sank into a chair, shaking. If this is real, I said slowly, why don't I remember any of it? Mara's expression darkened. Because you asked me to erase it. That was the second impossibility. She explained over the following days, meeting me in quiet corners of the station, never staying in one place too long. Project Palimpsest had crossed a line. They discovered that mnemonic spaces weren't passive. They remembered back. The deeper we went, the more those spaces began influencing the minds that entered them, reinforcing certain patterns, erasing others. People got lost. Not physically, but psychologically. They returned unable to tell which memories were theirs and which belonged to the construct. You were the best we had, Mara said, which meant you went the deepest. Eventually, I found something inside, a structure that wasn't built from memory but from absence, a void that pulled at identity itself. Project leadership wanted to study it. I wanted to destroy it. The only way to do that was from inside. You knew it would change you, Mara said. So, you made a contingency. Me. I had designed a recursive memory lock, one that would erase all knowledge of the project, of mnemonic navigation, of Mara herself. Once the task was complete, I would return to baseline, unable to re-enter or even remember the path. You said forgetting was the only way to be free, she told me. And I agreed, even though it meant losing you. I didn't know what to feel. Anger came first, then grief for a version of myself I couldn't access, for a relationship I couldn't remember earning. Why tell me now? I asked. Why not let me stay ignorant? Because the void isn't gone, she said quietly. It's waking up again. The memory gaps I'd been experiencing, the dreams, the sensations were symptoms. The structure I'd tried to erase was reaching out, using residual connections in my mind as anchors. You're the only one who's been there and come back, Mara said. Even like this. I laughed bitterly. I'm broken. She stepped closer. You're you. That was always enough. Against every instinct, I agreed to help. We didn't restore my memories, not fully. That was too dangerous. Instead, Mara guided me through controlled mnemonic exposures, letting fragments surface without overwhelming me. I learned to recognize the feeling of overlap, the subtle shift when reality thinned. The void was still there, and it remembered me. Entering it again felt like standing on the edge of forgetting itself. The space wasn't dark or violent. It was empty, a place where meaning unraveled. I felt parts of myself tugged loose, old habits, preferences, even fears loosening their grip. At the center, I found what I'd built before, a seal,
Cracked.
This time, I didn't try to erase it. I redefined it. I anchored the void to choice, to the act of letting go rather than being consumed. A boundary that could flex without collapsing. When I emerged, I collapsed into Mara's arms, exhausted beyond words. It was over. Project Palimpsest was shut down for good. The station logs were scrubbed. The void stabilized, reduced to a dormant anomaly no one could access again. As for me, the memories didn't return.
Not fully.
But something else remained. A sense of trust. Familiarity. When I looked at Mara, I still couldn't remember our past, but I knew, with a certainty deeper than memory, that she mattered. We left Helios Station together weeks later. No grand farewell. Just two people boarding a transport bound for somewhere quieter. "Do you regret it?" she asked as the station shrank behind us. "Forgetting?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I said, "because I didn't lose everything." She smiled a little sadly. "You never do," she said. "You just carry it differently."
She claimed to know me.
And now I understood that memory isn't the only way to belong to someone. Sometimes, what survives is the shape of a connection, etched not in recall, but in choice. And this time, I chose to remember her in my own way.